The Blue Duds, fellas, the Blue Duds. North Carolina has lost 3 of their last 5. Kentucky lost 3 of 4 and 4 of 6 before smacking Ole Miss last night. Kansas is 1-5 on the road in Big 12 play and just got 30-pieced by Texas Tech in Lubbock. John, who are you most worried about out of those 3?
Kentucky, because that defense is not good. So defensively, they don't have a connectivity. And that's the sign of being a younger team. It's a sign of being younger on the perimeter, particularly. They've gotten a great season out of Antonio Reeves. He's had a really nice season. He's been super steady. We've brought up the numbers before that if you look at Antonio and you compare him to other players that are at his position, he's having as good of a year as a lot of those guys. And Reed Sheppard, Rob Dillingham coming in off the bench, I get it. And they continue when they get into the game and they play a good amount of minutes. They've done their part as being double-figure scores, making things happen. And when you look at Wagner, Dillingham, and Sheppard game in, game out, you're getting around 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 assists, right? You're getting productivity. The offense is not the issue at all. This team is still one of, if not the most potent offensive team in college basketball when the light switch is on. But you got to guard somebody because when you get into the NCAA tournament, you're playing another great team. I don't care what seed line there are. 68 teams, should stay that way. We know it won't. But you're playing a team that has won and knows their stuff and runs their stuff and runs it well because they wouldn't get to the NCAA tournament if they didn't run their stuff well. Your talent, you can have all the talent in the world. If you don't guard, you're going to lose. You're going to lose in the NCAA tournament. You might get to the second weekend, but you're not making the Final Four if you're incapable of guarding.
Yeah, you can't rely on putting up 105 points every single night because there's going to be a night where the shots just aren't going down. It's just
it's not even that they're like 50 or 60 defensively. They're 125th in KenPom. 125. And they're a top 25 team. Like that's glaring. And Norlander's put this out, and I think you've brought it up too. Like if we haven't seen teams with a 125 defensive efficiency, that's a red flag. A big ass red flag in terms of your ability to go on a deep run. We haven't seen a team outside the top 75 on defense very rarely make the deep run. So that's a tough spot for them to be in. And as I told T.O. last night on our show, it's February 14th. It's not going to change now.
Mm-hmm.
Too late.
T.O.?
I agree with all of that. I still feel like if there's a team that can score 110 points 4 games in a row, Kentucky can do it. That just goes against every analytic that I've ever looked at or read. It's more than likely wrong. However, there's enough talent there to do it. I'm a little confused as to why Reed Sheppard and Dillingham are still coming off the bench. Like, what's the holdup? I understand the Wagner thing. DJ has not played like his dad or his grandfather for that matter. And it's not that he's a bad player. It's just he hasn't found his rhythm when he got to college. I was a little concerned about how he would do. Everybody was ranking him like the number 1 player in the country. And I thought he was a very good player, but to say he was number 1, I just didn't think it was there. I thought he was more of a top 30, top 35 kind of kid. Small, couldn't shoot, extremely quick, and could be an okay defender. But I think we've reached a point to where nobody's going to be a great defender on that team. So you need to go with your best offensive weapons. He's not one of those guys. I think it's the other 2 that need to come off the bench. Find some more minutes for those guys.
Yeah, I don't mind the Dillingham off the bench thing just because he's so hot and cold offensively. I do kind of like him as like the change of pace guy. But Reed's got to be in that starting lineup. I think you got to go with Reed, Reeves, and Mitchell have to be the first 3 guys when you kind of put your lineup together. And then it's like you want to play on Yeso because of what he can do protecting the rim. You want to try to go smaller and put a dude at the 4. You can kind of figure it out from there. But I think you have to start with Reed, Reeves, and Mitchell as the first 3 guys that you roll out there. I'm more worried about Kansas than I am.
Well, I was going to say that.
Okay, go ahead.
The reason being is because we've said it all season long. One person gets hurt. Oh crap!
Mhm.
Like, is there enough there to where they're going to be able to pull enough off the bench or something like that? McCullough, uh, McCullough is that good of a player. He is that good of a college player. He misses 2 games. You go 1-1, and the Baylor game was close at home. I just don't know how good they can be with only really 6, potentially 7 guys. It's just not a very deep team, which, to be honest with you guys, is a little bit shocking because Kansas gets pretty much who they want. So the bless you, Fanta. The That's what worries me more than anything is the depth of Kansas. Kentucky, like you said, John, we know what they are at this point. Like, they're going to be able to score 110. Are they going to be able to keep teams under 105? And that's very much up in the air. So, but if I had to, if I was worried about one, it's Kansas, just because one guy drops, there's not a whole lot of dominoes behind it, period. So it's worrisome.
Yeah, the Furphy coming back to earth was something that we kind of knew was going to happen eventually, right? To me, the biggest worry is like you kind of figured Nick Timberlake getting these more minutes would get a chance to kind of get him in a rhythm. And
Man,
No.
like the reason why they almost lost to Baylor was, and I feel bad like throwing this kid under the bus, but I think I probably am going to do it anyway. Like, he had 2 horrible defensive mistakes to get a Baylor wide open threes that should have tied the game and forced overtime. He missed the front end of a 1-and-1 with 15 seconds left that allowed Baylor to have a chance to hit the first 3. And then he committed a turnover that gave Baylor a chance to hit the second 3. Like, he had 4 mistakes in the last 15 seconds of a game that should have cost Kansas a chance to win it. And he's not ready. They have 4 guys. Juwan Harris isn't really an offensive threat. McCullough's kind of come back to earth when it comes to his shooting. It's difficult to be able to create space for Dickinson when you don't have much there. And you're right, man. It's weird that this is the place that Kansas is in right now. Maybe you shouldn't lose like 9 guys to the transfer portal in one offseason. Maybe that's a bad thing to have happen, Fanta.
Yeah, it exactly. And the McCullough injury obviously is part of the reason why they got absolutely boat raced. Not the main reason they got boat raced by Texas Tech, but McCullough or not, T.O. just summed it up with the injury issue as well. If they're missing one player, and Kevin McCullough has had an All-American like season, but the problem with Timberlake is he just doesn't guard. He's just not capable on the defensive end of the floor at this level. So you could, in the CAA, in a mid-major league, you could just give that up if you just went and got 25 shots up a night and you're good enough to just score and you're going to get those 25 looks. But it's what it is it's a great reflection on portaling and the transfer portal in general. So that in May or in April, when someone goes, right, and they're a great get, you could be a great get. And this isn't just Nick. This is in general in college basketball. You could be a great get and not be the right fit.
yep.
And so, and conversely, and I say this because they're fresh in my mind, like Seton Hall's playing Xavier tonight. You could be a guy that has not done much at all, and then all of a sudden become a really perfect fit for a program, and you become a better player and a guy that's more on the radar as a result. I'm talking about Jaden Bediako, Seton Hall's big. He was like an okay, like not a big contributor at all at Santa Clara, but he got coached by Herb Sendek, and he moved on to another school. And because he was at a power conference school, he says that he embraces physicality. You can't do that in the WCC. If you breathe, it's a foul. In the Big East, you literally could shove somebody and they're not going to blow their whistle. I watched it last night in Providence, St. John's. But it goes down to, just because you can get the top 10 name in the portal doesn't mean that it's always the best fit for your team. But, I wanted to bring this up before you get to the next thing. Like Eddie in our YouTube chat, which I love that we can look at the chat live. He says Fanta knows better than to give up on UK. Eddie, I'm not giving up on them. I'm just telling you how it is, brother. Defensively, we're talking about winning a national championship. You were in that category. Don't Eddie, don't act like you weren't. But this is why there are trust issues with Kentucky. We both are saying you can be a great team. But if you don't defend, you're not going to be able to get to where you're supposed to be. And Eddie, you know, as a member of Big Blue Nation, where your team's supposed to be. Your team year in, year out expects to get to Arizona. That can't happen if you don't guard me.
Mm-hmm. I will say on Kentucky's defense, last night was the first time in SEC play they allowed less than 1 point per possession defensively. And
they were good last night.
They were good.
They were good last night. Like
Reed Shepherd played 32 minutes, which helps.
Bingo.
Agnetho had 10 blocks, which helps. So
it's hard for us to know how good Ole Miss is as well. They're on the bubble.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that's pretty much what they are, like a top 40-ish kind of a team in college basketball. There's talent there, but that's one of the ones where you look at them and you kind of say, I don't know if the portal fits necessarily made the most sense there. Can I just make one note real quick on North Carolina, and then we can kind of move on here from the
Ontario Morris being an idiot too hurt Kansas. Just since we're on the we're on the Kansas subject, like that crushed them. Mm-hmm. Crushed them.
Rob, I hope, Rob, that you see the question in the YouTube chat from Tom down the road in this show.
That Illinois is UConn and Purdue's biggest threat. I think that we'll talk about what their biggest threat is. It's a tough matchup. I don't want UConn to get Illinois in like the Sweet 16. I think that's a tough matchup for them. And I'll talk about that a little bit when we get to the Marquette preview. Real quick, I just want to say one thing on North Carolina, right? So they've lost 3 of their last 5. In those 3 losses, the teams that they've played are 28 for 68 from 3. From December 20th through January 26th, when North Carolina made that run where they won 9 straight games, where they went from being like, this team's probably pretty good to, wow, you know what? They might be a top 3 team in America. Same conversation as UConn and Purdue. Teams only shot 22.8% from 3 on them. In the last 6 games, where they've lost 3 of them since January 27th, teams are shooting 36.9% from 3 on them. The noisiest stat that you can have in college basketball is defensive 3-point field goal percentage, right? There's been studies that have been done by Ken Palm and other people that show that that has very little impact by the defense that is being played, and it's much more due to whether or not the teams that you're playing are actually good 3-point shooting teams. So I think that was a regression that was always going to end up hitting, and it's hitting North Carolina now. So we'll see how that ends up carrying out, but that's something to kind of tuck away in your back pocket and make note of. All right. As you guys know by now, we've partnered with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and viewers of the Field of 68 as we all get ready for the best month of the year, March Madness. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use the bonus code FIELD150 and you will get $150 in free bets on your first wager with BetMGM, regardless of whether or not you win that first bet. All you need to do is deposit and bet $5 of your own hard-earned money. Here's how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app, sign up using the bonus code FIELD150, deposit $5, place your first wager, and you'll receive up to $150 in bonus bets regardless of the outcome of your bet if you use the code FIELD150 when you sign up. We have some fun stuff coming up for conference tournaments. For the NCAA tournament, we have bet insurance tokens. We have college hoops odd boosts. We have parlay boosts, which is one of my favorite things to do. There's always fun to kind of throw $25 out there and see if you can make 25 grand off of it. That never hurts. I've never won one. I'm going to keep trying though. I'm never going to stop doing that. So download the BetMGM app today and sign up. Field 150